Holding your assets in gold is an interesting topic that keeps coming up all the time. Now, interestingly, let's take an example of a country like US. Almost everything is reportable. There are complicated forms, so you have to report every single thing. At the moment you open up any bank account abroad, the first thing you got to do is start filling out forms and report everything. They report, you report, everyone reports. This extensive reporting. Surprisingly, when you talk about gold is a non-reportable asset, right? And while I'm saying this, now the thing is, if your home country requires you to report something, by all means you should follow the law. You should always follow your home country expectations. But if you're given a choice, right, a choice between picking an asset which is highly reportable versus for privacy purposes, and you're legally doing this, you're legally following all the rules and regulations, but if your country gives you a choice where a certain asset doesn't require reporting, then obviously it would be a smart choice to pick an asset which makes your life easier for most people rather than making life complicated. So when there are 10 doors that close, there's one door that remains open legally, and you're following and keeping things clean. You're being smart with this stuff. Don't be stupid. Don't break any rules and regulations. The topic that comes up quite often is, what are gold-friendly jurisdictions? Can you hold your possessions, your precious metals abroad? Of course, there are jurisdictions that specialize in this type of stuff, and people look for them all the time. Now, why gold? Gold is obviously increasing in value. It's finite in quantity. Why not silver? Silver, of course, the volume increases. People like to keep a concise, valuable instrument. With diamonds, there's a lot of fraud that happens. Not all diamonds are easily identifiable, but with gold you don't have that issue. It's the perfect middle ground which retains its value. Certain countries that are extremely gold friendly. So I'm going to discuss top 10 countries, the most friendliest countries when it comes to managing your gold abroad. Now, before we deep dive in these countries, what are the names and what is the structure and what is the situation in each of these countries, the big question is, how do you hold this gold? Now, there are two options of possessing gold. Either you physically possess it with you, either in your home country or abroad. Now, from a security standpoint, when you're possessing your gold on you, you got to be careful, you got to be smart. If you're doing this abroad, then you obviously need to maintain high level of privacy and you should know what you're doing. But a typical investor is going to rely on a third party to secure, protect and insure the gold, the precious metal, and that's where a lot of people are going to run away from any banks. Now, banks do provide gold services. They provide digital gold that's reportable in most cases, and this is not immigration, legal, tax or finance advice. This is just my own thoughts and opinions. You should always consult a licensed professional before making any decisions. Alternatively, you can reach us and we can connect you with the right professionals. Our attorneys are present in most jurisdictions that I keep talking about on this channel. So one option is, of course, you personally possess gold. The old school style comes with a lot of risk, but for a typical investor is going to run away from a bank. It's not going to rely on a bank because banks are going to make you fill out tons of forms. There are private vaults, companies that don't have to conform to the same forms or reporting mechanisms as banks do. Banks have to do a thorough KYC, compliance reporting back to your home country and all those kind of things. So even if you don't have to report, a bank would need to report because it's classified as a financial institution, which has a lot more requiring overhead. Now, when you talk about a private company, private vault, they have security in place. Of course, some of their security is the best in the world. The second thing is they provide insurance. So that's the second layer of security that you're looking for. And third is the convenience or the ease of access. Some facilities have 24 hours access, so you can be easily in and out of those facilities. So they add convenience, they add privacy, they add security, they add insurance. So it is all taken care of for you. Now I'm going to discuss 10 countries, the top 10 countries as I promised. But before I start discussing those, I have a humble request to you. If you are a regular viewer or if you're a new viewer, please check your subscription. It does not cost anything, but it does tremendous good to the channel. It helps me get you breaking news on time, and the moment there's any new program, any new residency, any new citizenship, I promise you'll be the first one to be notified. So please go ahead and turn on that subscription. The first country on this list is a pretty obvious one, is the country of Singapore. Singapore is extremely gold friendly. The big pro of Singapore is that the bureaucracy is easy, it's straightforward. If the volumes are high, if you're talking about big numbers, then Singapore is a straightforward jurisdiction, extremely safe, one of the safest in the world. So if you're possessing your gold in this country, then you know you're going to have extreme security and safety and stability and flexibility and ease of access. So Singapore is the number one. Then you have places like Switzerland, UAE. Now UAE is going to be off my list. Of course, is going to recommend as one of the leading locations to hold gold. But with what is going on in the Gulf region, with the situation with Iran, I would personally be careful. So I'm going to be out of UAE. No longer a jurisdiction that I would look at in 2026. Switzerland and Cayman Islands. The Cayman Islands is okay if you're from Asia, but if you are from the West, if you're from the US, I'm going to avoid Cayman Islands just because of the proximity to the US and the Western sphere of influence on that country. So I'm going to move a little away, so it does not make it to my list, although it is a good flexible jurisdiction to secure your gold. Switzerland used to be great, very secret, very private 10 years ago. But I think in 2026, just the government, it's not really the banks or the private entities that I'll be mindful of. It's really the Western sphere of influence on Switzerland is a lot different today than it used to be 10 years ago. Same thing with Liechtenstein. Again, it's not affordable for a lot of people. If you can afford it, it's a good jurisdiction, but most people would be looking elsewhere, again because of that whole EU situation. Austria, same thing, EU. New Zealand is a decent jurisdiction, but it's very hard to obtain residency in New Zealand. Canada, the proximity to the US, I'm going to definitely avoid Canada. Now that leaves us with two countries on this list, Hong Kong and Turkey. Now Hong Kong is excellent, but the problem, here's the small problem that I have. The problem that I have, I'm looking for two things, right? I'm looking for two things. One is, apart from the institutional capabilities, you want to have local transactional capabilities where you can easily purchase and sell the amount of gold that you want to deal with. So it doesn't need to be a 1 kilo bar that you're trying to transact. Maybe it's a smaller quantity. And for that reason, yes, Hong Kong works, but Hong Kong, you're dealing with brokers all the time. In a country like Turkey, you're dealing with the local market. You have a lot more access, you have a lot more granular control over your transactions. So I think the availability, the local transaction capabilities, the flexibility, the ease, I think is a lot more with a jurisdiction like Turkey. Hong Kong is going to be slightly more premium, more secure, more stable. But when you talk about Turkey, it's the granular market, the flexible local market that you can interact with. The second and the biggest factor, and this is the deal breaker for me, is that when you're looking at a jurisdiction, if you're holding cash in a bank, then you can of course do a wire transfer. So let's say your residency is revoked for whatever reason, or your residency gets cancelled or does not get renewed, or the program gets cancelled, then you can wire your money out of the bank. But if you're talking about physically possessing gold in a country, then ideally you want to have a solid permanent residency, or better, you want to have a citizenship. And on this list, the only country that can offer you a citizenship is Turkey through the CBI process. So yes, you're putting 400k in a property, but that property you own, you possess, you purchase, so you can make a good deal on the property, and obviously you're not going to lose any money. You're going to have a place to reside. So if you're physically going to possess gold in a country, you want to have at least an address in that country, because that's what you're going to use to present to institutions that are holding your gold. And you get the citizenship, so you have the stability. So although the country is a little chaotic as compared to some other countries on this list, but if you're a citizen, you can pretty much deal with the bureaucracy. And at any point in time, right, you are looking to start your Turkish CBI. We have teams on the ground that specialize in the property investment trust. You can always click the link, book a call, we can have a quick chat and get you started with your Turkish CBI program if that's of interest to you. And there are a dozen other citizenship through investment options that you can look at, including some zero tax jurisdictions. So it all depends upon what you're seeking from this nationality. And Turkey has just struck the 20-year tax holiday, so it's become more appealing. What I really want to focus on the aspect of Turkey is that you have all these local shops where it's so easy to purchase and sell gold. And while I'm saying all of this, you should follow the law. You should keep things legal. If your home country requires you to report, you should definitely by all means go ahead and report that. But having access to such a flexible, such an available market, having access to your own property in the country, having access to citizenship, the ultimate right in the country to deal with your physical assets, is I think the most appealing aspect of Turkey as an option. Yes, there'll be slight chaos, there'll be choppy waters somewhat as compared to Hong Kong or Singapore, but I think it's worth the hassle because you're going to be a national, you're going to be a citizen of that country, so it all makes sense. Now let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Which jurisdiction would you be most comfortable with? Is there any other jurisdiction that I haven't spoke about that's equally good or better as compared to some of these? And if you like this video, give me a thumbs up, make sure you're subbed, and catch you in the next one.